Welcome to this lesson on organic agriculture in the Southwest. In this lesson, we'll look at the unique Southwest climate and soils and how these influence organic field crop farming. We'll focus on the importance of soil health and water management and considerations for managing these in the Southwest region. If you're looking for more information on the basics of organic farming practices and the National Organic Program, be sure to check out OAT's online courses in organics. For our purposes, we're using the Transition to Organic Partnership Program's definition of the Southwest region. This includes the states of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. While there are some commonalities across this region, we acknowledge that this area of the United States is diverse, having many unique microclimates and environmental characteristics. Our aim is to highlight the overarching conditions within this region that bring both benefits and challenges to organic field crop farming. First of all, this region includes areas that are referred to as the Desert Southwest. So no surprise that extreme high temperatures and infrequent, or at least unreliable rainfall are commonly observed. This map demonstrates the primary soil types across the United States, and we can see here that our Southwest region is predominantly aridisols, entosols, and mollisols. Aridisols are the most common soil type in this region, and these soils are typically sandier, have lower percentages of soil organic matter, and are less fertile. So, a quick note from Southwest agroecologist Tim Voss.
Using organic practices are beneficial anywhere that they're applied, in whatever region. Here in New Mexico specifically, because organic methods are focused on soil health and soil building, that's particularly helpful in the Colorado Plateau region, in the high desert, in semi-arid conditions with oftentimes soils that are naturally low in organic matter. So to be building up organic matter in your agricultural soils is really a prerequisite to success. But you really need to add a lot of organic matter in these soils in particular. Even 1 percentage point of organic matter increases means a lot here.
As we just heard from Tim, while it is important everywhere, Southwest soils particularly benefit from the building of soil organic matter. This supports and feeds the soil ecosystem, and when well fed, the biological and chemical impacts of our below-ground bioherds digestive processes result in many benefits for plants. While the specific practices used to promote soil health are likely to differ from farm to farm and even from one field to the next, the general principles are universal, and these principles are held up by the National Organic Program regulations. With lower soil organic matter, wind and rainstorms can cause more severe soil compaction and erosion. More extreme weather events, such as drought and flooding, have increased over the past decades, and this pattern is likely to continue. Managing soil nutrient levels in these inherently nutrient-poor Southwest soils is an ongoing effort. Like other areas of the U.S., diverse crop rotations and the use of compost are the best ways to build soil organic matter. Many areas within these southwestern states have extended growing seasons compared to the majority of the U.S., which offers the opportunity to grow more plant biomass and have living roots in fields for longer periods of time. However, there are also higher elevation areas that are working within a much shorter growing season for field crops, which can make it more difficult to fit effective crop rotations in. Additionally, the dry climate in many Southwest states influences the rate at which compost can be used. Jennifer Reeve, a professor at Utah State University, speaks to both crop rotation and compost considerations in her region.
In northern Utah, central Utah, we have a very short growing season. So we have these hot, dry summers and cold winters. That makes it challenging to grow cover crops, for example, fit them into a rotation. You can't grow them over the winter and expect any biomass. And so fitting cover crops into crop rotations can be quite challenging due to our reduced crop growing season. So what do you do then instead for soil fertility, right? And so maybe some organic farmers rely heavily on compost and manures instead. And then again, when you have a very dry climate, overuse of compost and manure can rapidly increase salts in your soil, which can then be problematic. There tends to be this perception that you can't use too much compost, for example, right? But that might work in a humid environment where you have a lot of rain and you're leaching those excess salts, but not here. You actually do not need much compost at all if you have a good stand of a nitrogen fixing cover crop to incorporate, right? And get the nitrogen that way, and you're not introducing salts.
There are as many ways to farm as there are farmers, so others might see compost and its use a little differently, especially in areas where growing a nitrogen-fixing cover crop might not be so easy. Let's hear from Greg Schilling, owner of South Plains Compost in Lubbock, Texas.
You know, a lot of people worry about salt and manure when actually the salt content in commercial fertilizers considerably higher than what it is in manures. You know, there is a sodium aspect to manure and compost, but really it's pretty trace amounts when you consider the benefits you're getting from everything else. You know, there's farming practices that are helping with these salinity problems, whether it's, you know, irrigation changes or use of biologicals or products like the gypsum kind of neutralize that pH back to where it's more desirable for growing. It's not a one and done type thing, in my opinion. You know, if you get on the program, over time you'll see your organic matter steadily, you know, start to improve, and your overall soil health and soil structure start to improve. Plus the added benefit of nutrients, you know, so you're getting a very nutrient-dense product that also, from a biological and soil health standpoint, does a lot to improve your soil structure and soil health. It's kind of a running joke for our area because we are in sandier soils and low organic matter, but the good thing about compost is it's slow release, and then the tough thing about compost is it's slow release. So in sandier soils, you want that slow release fertilizer because if you don't utilize it right then it's going to leach out or get tied up, where, you know, being slow release, it can slowly feed that plant biome and system throughout the year.
With this range of environmental variables, believe it or not, it is still possible to successfully and sustainably grow organic field crops in the Southwest. Let's turn now to Matthew Grieshop, director of Cal Poly's new Center for Organic Production and Research.
Something that I think we have in California in the Southwest is we have a control over water and humidity in a way that most other parts of the country do not. What I mean by that is, since a lot of our production is in a Mediterranean climate, we have these long protracted periods where we know there's not going to be any rain. So obviously that means you have to irrigate if you're growing things that need water. But on the other hand, it means you can control water. And if you can control water in an agro-ecosystem, it provides you with a lot of opportunities to manage things. But if you're in a really humid environment where it rains all the time, there's a whole host of weed management issues, fungal plant pathogen and insect problems that just kind of disappear when you're growing in more of a Mediterranean or a more arid climate. So I think that's one sort of natural advantage that the West really enjoys. Of course, it comes with that cost of, well, you got to find your water somewhere. You know, that's why I think so much of what we're doing in organics works so well in the West. And that doesn't mean we can't grow organic crops in temperate climates. We can certainly do that. But the systems end up looking really different.
Additionally, the mineral content of these sandier Southwest soils generally requires soil pH and salinity management. Yadi Wang, a first-generation farmer from Arizona, shares about changes they are making to their water management system to decrease their salinity before field application.
We're going through an irrigation conversion, and I'm building 2 water reservoirs, one on North Farm, one on South Farm, to distribute the irrigation water, like a well water, into a big reservoir. So I have a budget. Essentially, it's my bank account so that I can use my money, you know, wisely or in group chunk and to irrigate specific fields in a more holistic manner. And also it's my water treatment plant. Essentially, I can use biochar, use algae, I can use microbial inoculant to treat that water and chelate some of the salt before I irrigate back to the field, to my plants, to my cash crop or cover crop.
We mentioned that irrigation is necessary for successfully growing many Southwest organic field crops, which offers farmers control over how and when they apply water. However, irrigating fields can bring its own set of challenges, adding costs for irrigation systems, leaching nutrients, encouraging the growth of weeds, adding more salt to the soil, not to mention possible tensions around water availability. Bob Whitney, Texas organic specialist, speaks to water management considerations.
Well, Texas is really an irrigation state. As you look at the state of Texas, we have a tremendous amount of land area that is arid or semi-arid. And as a result of that, we need water, and we have really a pretty good amount of water in the state of Texas, but we have to balance those needs with the population and agriculture. We have a significant amount of our organic agriculture in the arid, semi-arid regions of the state. We have dryland crops in those areas, but we depend on irrigation to really push us over the hump from the standpoint of economics in organic. And so we see a lot of our producers utilizing center pivots, and that really maximizes their production per acre. And so when we think about trying to grow a crop, we're going to make more money off of that organic crop in a irrigated situation. And so we see a lot of our producers, which will have both conventional and organic production, will tend to put their dry land fields or their less productive fields into conventional production. It just doesn't justify to be spending the money organically. And they'll put the higher value land, the more water on those lands into organic production. So we see that dichotomy going on in organic agriculture in the state of Texas. But it's a great place to farm. We love it.
In this lesson, we've highlighted the organic field crop environmental characteristics that are unique to the Southwest and require intentional management, particularly in respect to soil health and water management. Join us for more Southwest lessons as we learn more from ag advisors and farmers alike on the practices that are supporting their organic farming successes.